Want to add some spin to your motion graphics? Let's create a box you can easily customize with this new tutorial for After Effects. Yes, we're back with Media Workbench. So here we are in After Effects in a brand new project. We're going to create a new composition. This is going to be our text composition. We'll make the width 1000, we'll make the height 300, and let's make the duration 10 frames. We'll hit OK and we'll go up to the top to layer new and create a solid, and this is going to be our background color for our box. And then we're going to grab the text tool and click in the middle to be able to start adding in our text. I'll use the align options on the side to align our text to the middle. You fill in and use whatever font you want to use. I'm going to be putting in the numbers for each frame so that we can better visualize what's going on. Now I'm going to go down to the source text property of our text layer and click the stopwatch. And then going to each frame, put a new value on there. And this is going to be each side of our box as it spins through. You can put whatever words, you can put images. It just needs to be on a single frame for each side of the box as it would spin through. And there we go, we've got 10 options there. You can see as I scrub through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and perfect. We're going to go over to our project window, grab our text composition, drag it into a new composition. So it's going to copy it in as a layer, and then adjusting the composition settings for this one. This is going to be our main comp. We can call it main. We'll change it to 1920 by 1080, and let's increase the duration to say 30 seconds to give us a lot of working room. Next, we're going to go to our source, our text layer, and we're going to make it a 3D layer by clicking this little icon here. Then we'll go to layer, new, and create a null object, and this is going to be our controller. We can rename it by hitting enter and calling it controller. We'll make that a 3D layer as well, and we'll also then parent our text layer to our controller layer like so. Our controller needs a slide controller, so we're going to go selecting our controller null layer, hit effect, expression controls, and slider control like so, and we can hit enter again to rename this to slide. Now remember what you named this because we'll be using or referring to it in our expressions. Next, we're going to go to our text layer, we're going to hit A, and we're going to write our first expression on the anchor point. Holding Alt, we'll click and we'll say value plus square brackets 0, 0, height /2 minus 0.5 and close that off with the square bracket. And you'll see it jumps forward a little bit. What we're doing here is we're taking the current value of our anchor point because we don't want to adjust that, and we're adding to it our height or half the height of our composition that we have here. So the pre-comp. So if we change the pre-comp height, this value will also change. And just to help with some shearing in the pixelization, just when it's rotating around, we're minusing half a pixel. And when that applies around all the sides of the box, it'll just keep it looking clean. We're going to add all our expressions onto this one layer, and then at the very end we'll be able to duplicate it in order to get all 4 sides of our box. Now the most complex expression is coming up, so we'll right click on our text pre-comp. We're going to go to time and enable time remapping, and going down to where this stopwatch is already selected, we're going to hold Alt and click on it in order to add our next expression. Firstly, this is one side of a box, and we're going to have to define each box as being slightly different to each other. So we're going to type var offset equals 1. So offset's just going to represent which side of a box we're on, and this is the first side, so it equals 1. Next, we're going to say value equals frames to time, left parentheses, math dot floor, left parentheses, parent dot effect, left parentheses and quotations, slide. So that's the name of our expression slider that we added before. Close that with a quotation and the right parentheses, and then we're going to say left parentheses, quotation again, slider, quotation and right parentheses, and this says that it is a slider control. Then we're going to say plus, left parentheses, 4 minus offset, right parentheses, right parentheses again, and then we're going to say / for divide by 4 because we have 4 sides to our box, right parentheses to close it off, our asterisk, which is multiplied by 4 as well for 4 sides of the box, plus offset minus 1. We'll close that with a right parentheses, and then we're going to use the percentage symbol, say time to frames, left parentheses, source dot duration, right parentheses, and close that off. Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Let's pause for a moment and break down what this expression is actually doing. If you want to jump forward to the next part of the tutorial, the timecode is here. Otherwise, let's have a look at this expression in a more granular way. The first line sets an offset, which is used to control the timing for this particular side of the box. This ensures that each side changes at the right moment as the box rotates. By adjusting the offset value for different sides, we can stagger their timing. Now let's look at this particular line. This part of the expression calculates which frame of the pre-comp should be displayed based on the current rotation of the box. Let's break it down. This part grabs the value of the slide slider from the parent layer, which determines how far the box has rotated. Remember, that part is also assigned to control the rotation of the entire box. We add the offset adjustment so this side of a box changes at the right time in sync with its rotation. Dividing by 4 groups the slider value into blocks of 4, since each rotation corresponds to 4 slider units. Rounding down ensures we lock onto the start of a group of 4 frames. Finally, we adjust the frame number to align it with this side's timing. Next, we use the percentage symbol, also known as modulo, to ensure the calculated frame loops back to the start when it exceeds the total number of frames in the pre-comp. For example, if the slider value goes beyond the layer's duration, this keeps the animation looking seamless. The modulo symbol essentially gives us a number and calculates what the remainder would be if they were divided. Finally, we convert the frame number into a time value. Time remap uses time values in seconds used as a decimal, so this step is necessary to make After Effects understand which part of the pre-comp to display. Next, we're also going to add an effect to our layer. We're going to go Effect, Color Correction, Brightness and Contrast, and we want to write a expression for our brightness control. We're going to hold Alt, click on the stopwatch, and you see it gives us our next expression window here below. We're going to again say var offset equals 1. Next, we're going to say var slide equals parent dot effect, left parentheses, quotation slide, quotation right parentheses, left parentheses, quotation slider, right parentheses, right quotation, right parentheses, and close that off with a semicolon. You can see now that we're defining the slide value to represent the value of our slider control. Next, we're going to say var frame is equal to math.floor, left parentheses, left parentheses slide, plus left parentheses 4 minus offset, right parentheses, divided by 4, right parentheses, times by 4, plus offset minus 1. You'll recognize most of this from being the same as what we use in our time remap expression. However, we're not doing the time to frame source duration. We don't need that. Finally, we're going to say value equals linear, good old linear, left parentheses, slide minus frame, comma 0, comma 1, comma 0, comma minus 50. Now the minus 50 is how dark the brightness value goes as our box scrolls downwards, and it's going to give us a cool shading look in order to make it appear much more 3D. Now, if you're unsure about any of these expressions, you can always go to the Media Workbench website where I have a full tutorial written out along with the expressions there that you're able to copy and directly add into your After Effects file. Now, just remember to hit the button copy because there is some tooltips that pop up to help you learn what each of these expressions, such as math.floor or linear, do in the expressions within After Effects, so you can learn a little bit more. Now we're going to add a expression to our controller. Now it's going to be on our X rotation. So if we hit R, we can see our X rotation. I'm going to hold Alt, and then we're going to pick whip our slider control, and we're going to say times by 90. And this is going to get our actual slider starting to rotate. If we start dragging it forward, you can see it does rotate. You can see it goes quite quickly rotating through. We don't need to have it going all the way to 100. So if you ever want to adjust the values of your slider control, you can always right click. We want it to start at 0 and say go to maybe 30 rather than 100, just to give us some options. Now we've finished adding the expressions onto our text layer, so we can duplicate it by selecting it and hitting Control D. And then if we double tap U, we can see all the expressions and changes that we've done to this layer. In this case, we want to go in and we want to say our offset is going to go to 2 because this is our second side. And then we're going to hit R to bring up the rotation, and we're going to say on the X rotation minus 90. We're going to do that again, duplicating the layer, going in, changing the offset in this case now to 3, and then hitting R. And what we can do is, rather than typing minus 180, we can always just go in here and say minus 90, and it'll do the actual formula itself to work out, oh, you mean minus 180. Next, we're going to duplicate one more time, go in here, say this is our fourth layer, like so. And with the rotation, again, minusing 90, that'll take us to the layer being at X rotation minus 270. Now we can close all that out and go to our controller layer. And now when we drag it around, you'll see we start to get rotating around that box. Now you can see as we get to 10, it starts to repeat again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is because our expression is taking our duration of this composition and then using that to limit where we go. Now, this is great because now we can rotate, we can animate, we can add easing onto our slide value and be able to spin this box in whatever dynamic ways that we like. Now, I like to ensure that I go and keyframe on a whole value, like so. Move forward to whatever point you want to keyframe. In this case, we can even go to 1 second. And we'll say we'll go to slide 15. Now you may notice that our compositions don't continue all the way along, but we can just drag those out. Now that we've put an expression or used the time remap property, we can now drag these out longer than the actual composition exists. So you can see now I've added 2 keyframes. We can even go in here and add some dynamics by using the graph editor. We can use this button down the bottom to make it wider, and we can just drag these 2 anchor points. You can see we're adding a nice curve in and a nice curve out. If you'd like to know more about easing, you can go and check out my video shown here on easing. It is quite popular, and it goes into depth as to what it means to ease your keyframes. But if we preview that now, you'll be able to see that it spins from one, it goes to the other. In a very smooth, nice animation like so. One thing we can do is, say we wanted to slant this, we can take our main composition, drag it into a new composition, and we can see, all right, we want to add some blur and a bit of a slant. So we can come in here, go Effect, Transform, which is in the Distort drop down, and then Transform. And then we can skew like so, so say minus 10. The other thing we want to do is add a bit of blur. So we can go into, if I remember where it is. There we go, we found it. It's in the Time CC Force Motion Blur. You'd think I'd know where that is. And you can see we're already starting to see a blurring. If you start to see some shearing, you can always increase the motion blur samples, but this is how you get the blurring effect on our box spinning without it looking a bit strange and you're starting to bleed into what's going on behind. And you can see that we get a really nice animation. It spins along, it's very fluid, and because we have that brightness effect happening as they scale down or move down, it definitely gives us that 3D look. So that's how you create this animation. If you want the project file for this box spinning animation, you can always hit up the Media Workbench Patreon and you can get access to this project file along with many other project files for the stuff that we create here on the channel. Thank you for supporting me, and until next time, my name is Bench. Thanks for watching.